Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think I'm saying that right. Let me know if I'm not saying that right. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, my bad. But Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame, he's a very interesting prospect, all right? First of all, Notre Dame, they have him playing that wheel linebacker spot, outside linebacker spot. And you typically see him outside of the box, and I think that's for good reason. He's a little bit on the smaller side. I think he's about 6'1", weighs about 210, 215 pounds, something like that. So he's outside of the box, out on the perimeter a lot, and he's out there covering those slot guys, covering those tight ends in the slot, things like that. But watching Koramoah on film, the first thing that stands out is just his athleticism. He's a really good athlete in space. He has good speed, especially his straight line speed. He just flies around on the field, and I think he plays with really good effort, and he plays with really good intensity overall. Combine that with being a really good athlete, and you got a guy that could be a potential problem for opposing offenses on a play-to-play basis. Now, I think Koramoah, he's a guy that's kind of like a Swiss Army knife type of guy, and he's a guy that you have the potential to do a lot of good things with, especially if you're a creative type of coordinator. He's athletic enough to cover, and he's shown that on film, so you won't really have to take him out of the game on third down situations, on obvious pass situations. You don't have to take him out of the game. He can go out there and cover a slot receiver effectively. He can carry guys vertically down the field. I think he's shown enough of that on film to be able to utilize him at the next level in that way. Also, that gives you the ability to do things like disguise coverages. He's a guy that you can have initially in the box looking like he's going to come on the blitz, and then he bails out of there, and now he's the deep safety roaming the middle of the field. He can do those types of things. Now, I'm not saying he's has the ability to be a safety full-time, to be a free safety full-time, but if we're talking about disguising coverages and bringing pressure from different angles and confusing the quarterbacks, you have to have guys that can go out there and do that stuff. You have to have guys that can play multiple roles, and I think Koramoah is a guy that can do that. You can also utilize him in your pass rush, and I think a guy like Koramoah is going to wreak havoc on blitzes coming off of the edge, getting him tied into the defensive line games and movements, things like that. You could really scheme some stuff up to get this guy free and get him free shots on the quarterback. He's going to play with that effort and that intensity. He has a nose for the ball. It's just how you utilize the guy and how you free him up to utilize the gifts that he has athletically. Now, as far as the coverage stuff, like I said before, I think he has the ability to hang with some slot receivers in the NFL. I think he's going to be really good against tight ends because he should be able to handle those guys, because 9 times out of 10, he's going to be a better athlete. But I think he's also able to deal with those slot receivers as well, and you see that on film a little bit. Now, do I want him out there playing 50, 60, 70 snaps of man coverage on the slot receiver? No, I don't think his ability is that good. We're going to have to mix some zones in there, get some seam drops in there, stuff like that. But he has the ability to be effective in those areas, and like I said before, he's a guy that you don't have to take off the field in obvious pass situations because he's going to be able to hold his own against most people. Now, what I don't like about him, and I think it's the reason he plays where he is obviously the size. So he's not a guy that's going to be an inside linebacker. It's just not going to happen. I think once you get linemen, to the second level, when they get attached to him, I think you're going to be in trouble if you have him as your inside linebacker. No, he's not a guy. He's just not big enough and not physical enough to be able to handle pullers and, be able to spill or box pulling guards and tackles and stuff like that. He doesn't have that body type to do that, nor is he physical or aggressive enough to do that. And I mean, it just is what it is. You're going to have to play that guy as an outside linebacker in space in order to utilize him effectively. I don't really want to see him in a box. I don't want to see him taking on guards, stuff like that. I just don't think it's beneficial to him to have him doing that type of stuff. There's plays on film where you get guys pulling and kicking him out, really knocking him out of the way, and he just doesn't have that type of punch, that type of ability to strike and knock guys back like you would want from an inside backer. That's just not his game. But overall, really solid athlete, really good player, plays with great effort. has a nose for the football, things like that, and could be utilized in a lot of different ways. If you're creative as a coordinator, you're going to have to figure some things out with this guy. You can't just have him out there at outside linebacker doing seam drops all day. You're not utilizing him effectively if you're doing that. You're just wasting a talented player. So it's really going to be up to those coordinators to figure out what to do with this guy. And when I think about him, when I watch him on film, now when I look at him and I watch him on film, and I think about the type of player he is, he reminds me of Isaiah Simmons from last year. And it's not that they're like the same player. Obviously, Isaiah Simmons was a lot bigger of an athlete. Koramoah is a lot smaller. I think the problem is, though, with both of these guys, you have guys that are a jack of all trades but a master of none. What did Isaiah Simmons do exceptionally well? Now, Clemson did a good job of scheming and getting him in positions to make plays. They got him opportunities to get out there in coverage. They got him opportunities to get out there and be a pass rusher. But at the same time, once Isaiah Simmons got to the NFL, he really didn't have a spot where he could play full time. And I think he hasn't found that spot yet. That's why he didn't end up having the greatest rookie season. And I can see the same thing happening with Koramoah. It's all going to come down to that coordinator and what they decide to do with him. But he's a guy that can do a lot of different things out there for you, but he's not just exceptional at one thing, if that makes sense. So it's going, like I said, it's going to be up to the team. It's going to be up to the coordinator to figure that out. But the skill set is there. The athleticism is there. The effort that he plays with is there. Like I said, he's always playing at 100 miles an hour, and I always think that's a good thing for defensive players. Not quite sure where this guy is going to end up going in the draft, but if he ends up on a team like, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, something like that, where they've traditionally found those types of guys and made Pro Bowlers and all pro players out of them. If he ends up in one of those situations, then man, he might be hell on wheels. But really intriguing player, and I'm very interested to see where he lands.